Jason here from the JRNY Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm joined with Dave Hyman from Reform Digital. If you want to say hi.
Yeah, hey man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so Dave is a CRO specialist. He's amazing at improving Shopify campaigns, e-commerce, whatever you need to sell online. He's an amazing guru in that sense. He's been super active on LinkedIn, and I know from his content and speaking to him that he runs an amazing agency. So we're gonna have a chat and see what happens behind the scenes, and see the thoughts of Dave, I guess.
Yeah, man, and thank you for the wrap. That's nice words. It's funny because we've only known each other maybe a few months, and it's because we're both on similar journeys, because we're both early days in our agency and stuff. And I think we just connected and we had a chat, and you and Jacob are obviously really good, like-minded people in this industry, and I kind of wanted to talk to you guys and get in touch, and it's kind of been good from there.
Because long story short, we both started our agencies right in the middle of a pandemic, which I'm sure a lot of people would say it's probably not the wisest thing, but it was something that we both decided to do. We just kind of found each other on LinkedIn and clicked from there. So I'd love to hear kind of your background, because you've worked at so many different agencies. You've got such an interesting kind of journey. Talk to me about that and how you ended up building Reform in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy times, and exactly what you just said there. If I had my time again 4 months ago, I might have rethought my decision. I'll admit I'm loving it, and it's such a cool journey, and I think this has just amplified that even more. But my background's pretty lengthy, man. I started in-house. I was doing digital marketing for a range of different industries internally. So I was working with 4 companies. I didn't really like that. Just the way that I work, I like to bounce ideas. I like to have different campaigns operating at different times. So when you're selling one product or one service over and over again, I just kind of got to that 6 months and kind of just got bored of it, to be honest. So that was my original kind of background. Then throughout all of that, I'd kind of bought businesses. I'd run Shopify stores. I'd sold them. I'd always had an entrepreneurial background and wanted to kind of, be the next big guy on Shark Tank or something like that. That was what I always wanted to do. And then I realized that I'm probably not cut out for that either, just because it's a lot of hard work. And again, you have to dedicate yourself to one thing, which is one particular product. So again, I'd kind of get to that point where I'm like, are my creative juices flowing enough? And then I kind of joined the world of agency. And as you said, I've been at a few agencies now, worked at SEO agencies, worked at digital, mostly paid agencies, worked at agencies that claim, I suppose, that they're full service. And I think it took me to have that experience for me to realize that I love digital and I love the agency side of things, but I couldn't really find the exact fit for me. So then, I'd been kind of toying with the idea. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I was made redundant, and for good cause, because now I get to do something that I love and something that I was really excited about. So similar to you, man, I had that decision, which was do I take another job and just get through this period, or do I go for it? And I think I mentioned to you before, my wife's pregnant, so we're expecting in November. So I've got a pandemic plus a kid on the way, lots of external pressures. But when I thought about that from a different perspective, which was these are now motivations. I want to provide for my family. I want to get through this pandemic, and I want to do it my way. It was such an easy decision, and I built Reform, and it's been excellent ever since.
Yeah, that's actually such an insane kind of situation to be in, right? Being stood down, your wife's pregnant, another baby, a baby coming on the way and stuff like that. Talk to me about what you think there, because I know a lot of people starting a business is the most scary thing for them. They talk about risk, risk aversity and stuff like that, having stability in a full-time job, especially when you're having a kid on the way. Why, how did you outweigh the pros versus the cons to kind of just, make the decision, I'm starting an agency, and we'll see where we go from there?
Yeah, I'm super, super lucky by having a really supportive wife who just, for some reason blindly trusts everything that I do. So that's incredible. So I sort of sat down with her and said, this is what I want to do. And she was super supportive, and she said, as long as it makes you happy. And I think Probably for me, it was a way up of like, I could go get a good salary and I could go sit at another agency and, you know, I'd play my part and I'd do some reasonable work, but it doesn't motivate me. It doesn't drive me. And I was kind of coming home, you know, just kind of like grumpy, or not even grumpy, just kind of like flat and just being like, oh, you know, I got through a day. I've never been that kind of a person. And you know, sometimes I wish I was a person who just went to work, earned some money, came home and just put it out of their head, but I just can't. So I think we kind of weighed it up. We said, is this viable for me? Obviously the pressure was for me to pay myself a salary as soon as possible, which I've been able to do, which I'm extremely lucky to have done. And then once I figured out that that was the case, you know, we were talking before this podcast about accounting, got an accountant on board to actually make sure I was doing my books and stuff. Once I kind of got it in my head that this was a really viable option for me and, you know, my family and my future, I just thought, you know what, let's go for it. And if I'm going to go for it, let's do it properly. So I dove head first and here we are, you know, 3-4 months later, got a really good group of clients. Working with like-minded people like yourself, smashing out content that I love. And yeah, I don't think I can ever go back.
Yeah, for sure. I think 100% echoing everything you just said, like, you know, building an agency is such a unique but rewarding business model where like you get to work with so many different businesses, help them grow. But like you mentioned, it's kind of like you're working yourself in these businesses. Like I'm the exact same. I've always wanted to start my own business. I've had my fair share of trying Shopify, like drop shipping businesses, selling watches and ties and stuff. But like you mentioned, to succeed in that space, you really need to dedicate yourself to that one thing. And
absolutely, man.
Going down the agency road, you kind of get to work on businesses you'd never ever, you know, work on before. You know, we've got one of our clients. Go on.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you get invested, yeah. So like I had a client the other day who came on board. I can openly talk about them. They're pretty normal. They're pretty cool about it. So they're called Hagen's Organics. They're down here in Melbourne. They do like fresh produce, and they've exploded during COVID because they can send big meat packs to everybody, organic eggs or organic milk.
Yeah.
And I bought my dad like a pack for Father's Day. So I called them and I'm like, hey, can you just give me, you know, your $150 pack or whatever? And they're like, you know, you don't have to buy from us. Like, just because we're a client, you don't have to buy from us. And I'm like, no, but I do. Like, I want to buy from you because I'm invested. Like, if I'm doing your campaign and I'm kind of supporting you and I believe in what you're doing, then of course I want to support you. And of course I want to buy a pack of, you know, meat to send to my dad, which dad loved, by the way. So like, I don't know about you, man, but I just feel a part of their business, almost like a marketing wing. And that makes me want to work harder for them.
Yeah. It's like, it's this weird, like, personal attachment where you'll be sitting around a campfire and you're like, hey guys, like if you need like this type of service, like hit up my client. Like, even though sometimes, you know, you don't 100% haven't used it yourself, but you just find yourself trying to like vouch for them kind of thing and just do whatever 100%. You can to help them. So that's super, it's super interesting. Talk to me about like Reform Digital, because obviously you and I are talking about this before the podcast, about how you kind of started and what the name means. You want to just touch on that real quick?
Yeah, cool. So reform in its like most basic essence, if you go grab a dictionary, it literally just means to change something that's not working. So you and I have both spoken about this industry, and there are obviously a lot of agencies and a lot of players out there. There's also consultants, there's also freelancers, there's also a huge range of different people that are offering digital marketing services. And not all of them are good, let's be honest. There are a group of them that are pretty average in their delivery. So for me, what I found in this industry was lots of people have been burnt before. Lots of people had conversations with agencies that had overpromised them the world, under-delivered, kept them in contracts. You know, there's so many things going on. So for me, the whole concept behind it was I didn't want to be a run-of-the-mill agency. I wanted to be somebody that could deliver value, that could be transparent, that could, you know, offer these people a resolution who are just looking for a way to improve their business and not be stuffed around. And that's how Reform kind of came into, you know, fruition. And I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I first started the agency, which is like 4 months ago, I feel like I've matured so much in that 4 months. I originally was like, I'll take on any work, you know, send me SEO, I'll do some web builds, you know, I'll do a CRO audit once off here and there. But as I've sort of started to get into this game, I'm kind of like, I don't know, you can't really be a full service agency. You can't be a jack of all trades. It really doesn't work for me anymore. I think you have to pick that category that you're good at.
Yeah.
So you mentioned e-commerce before. That's probably where our majority of our clients come from, an e-commerce background, and we try and kind of leverage our conversion optimization expertise, and we kind of combine that with paid advertising. So we do SEO. We're pretty good at it. I wouldn't necessarily say that we're going to be the high level SEO agency that you want for extreme like technical difficulties, but we can offer some value there. We can help with some web build stuff, but we don't want to build websites from start to finish. But so where we found our, our wheelhouse, I suppose, is that paid advertising with a big overriding conversion optimization. And that's kind of how it's coming, into fruition, man. And people seem to love that, which is great.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a really important thing about like specializing rather than like stretching yourself too thin, because a lot of times you look around like different agencies, they do everything: web development, SEO, graphic design, branding, and they just, specialized full service agency. And I'm just like, that's a bit of a, that's kind of
full
ironic.
Service.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like you mentioned, man, so many people have been burnt in this industry. And I think when you ask a lot of business owners about, marketing agencies in general, I think a lot of the times the perception is quite negative. A lot of people have been burnt and they're almost reluctant to go to another agency just because, the things that they were promised in the past haven't been fulfilled. They're being, over-promised, under-delivered kind of thing. And it's just, it's a very common thing, and it's not uncommon for someone to be burnt and scared to market again, which is kind of, it's not good for the industry. I don't think it's not a good look for us marketers, especially, but it does definitely have some sort of potential for agencies that we're hopefully trying to build, honest, transparency.
100%, man. I mean, the thing here is that we're obviously very involved in it, but I guess if I put myself in the head space of, say, like a potential client or somebody who's navigating here, think about it from a different perspective. So if I'm buying a car, so for me personally, I'm not a massive car person, but I've had Toyotas, I've had Subarus, I've had, my current car's a Subaru Outback, like station wagon.
Yeah.
I've had a horrible box of a Ford Falcon that my mum handed down to me. Like there's all different varieties. Yeah. It took me to get to this point in my life, at 31, where I'm like, okay, cool. I kind of have a rough idea of a car that I particularly like.
Yeah.
It's also the same in digital marketing. Yeah. So you can go out there and you can potentially have, all the bells and whistles attached to an agency or a car when you're at a car service or, like a car dealership or whatever. And you might start driving it and think, oh, well, it's probably not the right fit for me. So I'm not necessarily upset about people having a few agencies over their lifetime. That's going to happen organically either way. You get to a point in a relationship with an agency where sometimes you don't think you can scale together or, your expectations were wrong from the beginning. That's fine. I understand that. It's when I hear the stories about people that have been promised the world, under-delivered, and then just like no assistance, no service, no value from the agency, who have just kind of said, this is what you signed up for. If you're not happy with it, piss off, really is the kind of reaction they get. And for me, that's just not good enough, because these people are entrusting a fair bit of money, especially from small to medium businesses. They're kind of relying on us to make sure that they get a return. And if we can't offer that, then how can you offer this service, in digital marketing? That's where it kind of, like, are you the same? Is that kind of where it annoys you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think one of the big things that really like drove me to build my own agency was one of my mates owns like a landscaping company, and long story short, they've been running with this agency in Brisbane for like a whole year, like 12 months. And I had a chat to him like one day, and I was like, how's everything going? He's like, oh, I think it's going all right. And I'm like, what do you mean you think? Like, he's like, oh, I get reports every month and, whatever. I get a few phone calls. I'm not really sure what's happening. And then I was like, yeah, Matt, like, let me just take a look, because I'm in marketing. I work for an agency. Let's just have a look. And I looked at like the 12 months of historical data, and it was just like, like thousands of dollars spent. Like, there was no conversion tracking. I think they got like one or two phone calls, like 0.0001% conversion rate. I'm just like, mate, you've spent like, you've paid like $5,000 for one phone call or something. And there was just no, it's kind of, you can't say there's no transparency, but there was a lack of education on behalf of like my mate. like he didn't understand what was actually happening because there was too much jargon, too much like complex moving parts. So like, what is a conversion rate? What do these numbers mean? Like I'm paying you, just take my money and then like just see what happens. And I think a lot of agencies kind of manipulate that, or like, use that to their advantage, and sign people up to like long-term contracts and say, oh, we're not getting your results, but it's just because X, Y, and Z complex term that you don't understand. Just let me do it, and you go away, kind of thing. And
yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
you're spot on. And there's pretty graphs with green arrows, and
yeah,
they highlight the good things and don't mention the bad things. Like, it's nuts. It's nuts. People can just manipulate data however they want to.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is what you just said there, probably even before they manipulate data. So they even understand what the data means from the get-go. Like, what's conversion tracking? Why am I tracking phone calls versus form inquiries? What is ROAS? How does return on ad spend
what
work?
are all these acronyms? Yeah.
What are you talking about? People won't know what CRO is, conversion rate optimization. What does that even mean? So like, if you're not prepared to explain that, then you can never really be held accountable. And I think that's, something that agencies definitely take advantage of. In saying that, I mean, we paint a pretty dark picture. There are some really great agencies out there that do a tremendous job.
Yeah.
It's just annoying that we're in an industry where the education curve is really far behind. So, a concept like SEO is really difficult for people, but they realize that they need it. So they just call you and go, hey, I need some SEO. And they just take a dart shot in the dark and say, agency A will do, let's just give it a go for 6 months and see how we go. Little do they know that 6 months could cost their business a lot of money. So
100%. It's such a weird, complex space to be in, I think. But if you kind of break it down to its core elements, are you making money? Is your business growing, kind of thing, right? Because if you think about it, if you put $1 in like a, I don't know, like a poker machine or whatever, and then you get like, nothing back, it'd be kind of ludicrous, but to just keep putting money in. But I guess people kind of don't really think about it that way. Advertising and digital marketing, they kind of, it's kind of like numb to the feeling that you're spending thousands and thousands and seeing nothing.
Well, you need it. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard it a million times. My competitor's doing it is always the response. My competitor's doing SEO, so I have to do SEO. And you're like, well, hang on, who's your competitor? Are they even a competitor? Like, they might be playing in completely different ball games. I mean, I think it's always a really difficult thing to get a client who just says, what should I do? Because that is such an open-ended question. Like, there's millions of directions I can take you. So if you don't have somebody that's got that strategic understanding, really understands your business, kind of understands the way that you're going to, I don't know, operate as a business and get the best return for that client, then you're never going to win. I mean, people can throw together a Facebook campaign. People can give SEO a bit of a try. People can run Google AdWords. They're incentivizing people to do it now. They want people to spend money on their platforms. It's having the knowledge and understanding exactly what campaigns to run on all of those platforms and how you can get the best out of it that really makes us worth our while. And that's where the crux of this comes to, because people will, sell themselves as a premium or whatever. And if they don't get that expectation in line with what you originally promised the client, then it just goes south from there.
Yeah. It's a total like misunderstanding of like, I saw it online, saw a client, like a competitor do it. I've got to do something similar. So then you've got businesses and, industries that don't need certain things like Facebook ads, and like, oh yeah, I need Facebook. I need this because I saw it online. But the truth is, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind sometimes. Sometimes you got competitors doing the most ridiculous strategies that more often than not like shouldn't work based on, the certain elements. And then you've got, on the back end of that, other competitors following that competitor. So
exactly,
it's a bit
crazy.
So talk to me about like where you're trying to take this agency, because obviously you're trying to do kind of something similar in what Jacob and I are wanting to do, like, just provide an honest, transparent service, get it to a point where we can employ really amazing people and just love what we do. Perhaps even, take some of the businesses that we work with in-house ourselves, like have equity in the business kind of thing, just have a great time building businesses. So talk to me about where you want to go with Reform.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that everybody, when they start an agency, has these grand plans for where they want to be. Like in 5 years, I want to be 100 staff, blah, blah, blah. But like, for me, it's not really about that. For me, I kind of never want to grow to the point where I, am aggressively scaling just for the sake of it. I think I want to be comfortable. I think I want to be in a point where I have a really good team around me. I really want to have like-minded people. As a matter of fact, it's taken me a bit of time to get to a point where I can, honestly say I probably want some smarter people in the room than me. I love to think that I'm, the be-all and end-all, but there are some really clever human beings out there. And, particularly in this industry, quite young kids are really picking this up quite well. So I think for me, it's about surrounding myself with an awesome team, having some really good clients that want to get the most out of it. And I want to just grow this business to a point where, apart from supporting my family and having like a reasonably good income and having like a really good, group of people that are all having the same thing and being, being paid the way that they should be. I think it's just a matter of having that really good group of clients, a really good vibe, a really good culture. And I just want to be able to go to work every day and do something that I love. I mean, ideally, when we get out of this pandemic, I love having an office. I love bouncing off people. Working remote with my team at the moment's been good and it's fine, but it is really nice to be able to be right next to each other, kind of brainstorming. And I mean, you're up in Queensland, so you have a little bit more leisure and a bit more flexibility. But Victoria, like, we're do not leave a 5K radius at the moment. So working has been really interesting, but I'd love to get back to a point where we can brainstorm. And I love like a client walking into the, to the agency or to the workspace and just being able to like bounce off everybody else and feel the vibe and kind of have like a good feel about where they're at. So for me, it's all about, I guess it's not like the vanity stuff anymore. It's not, I want 20,000 clients and I want 150 staff working here. That's not really anything to me anymore. It's more about, I want an awesome culture with awesome people, with great clients and do really, really solid work. That's all. That's all it's about for me now.
No, that's really awesome, man. I love that answer. And I think, like, from my perspective, when, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the way I feel about it, but before I started an agency, I kind of had these grandiose fucking, like, plans, right? I want to make $1 million. I want to do this, like, at some point. But then once you build that agency and you get to a point where you're paying yourself a full-time salary and, things are running smoothly, and now it's just a point of, building that, more revenue to hire more employees and stuff like that. I kind of felt numb in the sense that, like, I don't need to make, millions and millions of dollars. Now it's more about, impact and helping these businesses and enjoying the job kind of thing. And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned it's not about the vanity stuff now. It's more about just having that connection with your team, having an office, like once the pandemic's over and stuff like that, having that energy in the room so you can bounce really cool ideas and just, like, do some awesome work. And I think that is 100% like on par with what I believe as well. Cause it's before all of this pandemic stuff, right? Everyone wanted to work from home. It was like, I hate the office life. I want to work from home, blah, blah, blah. But now everyone's working from home and you're like, God damn, I miss the office, man. I miss that energy. I miss that, that structure where I can talk to, my team members and bounce ideas with clients and just create something magical. So I think, is that what you're planning to do once this pandemic is kind of like died down a bit, get your own office and kind of move your team in there?
Yes, I mean, we have an office space that, we've just got on hold at the moment. So ideally it'd be good to go back in there, but I don't think everything's going to go back to normal straight away. And I think we probably need to come to terms with the fact that I'll probably have a pretty flexible roster, come in a couple of days a week, stay at home a few days a week. Like, I'm not fussed as long as we're productive together and we can be efficient. But I do just really like that interaction. And I mean, just little things, man. Like, I was planning a pretty decent sized Christmas party this year and I'm like, well, we'll probably have to postpone that because, I don't think anything's going to be opened up. And that's just to get the people around you. It's great to do business every day, but you're also working with just some really nice people. And it's also nice to just spend time and, kind of be a team and not have to worry about being in the trenches and doing work. So the plan will definitely be to go into an office at some point in time. But I think, you might be the same. We might have to do a bit more remote and, be a bit more flexible with that going forward.
100%. Like, how has that been for you? Like, obviously you're based in Melbourne in the peak of a pandemic, and you know, I'm not 100% sure on like the lockdown situation there, but there's definitely like a lot of challenges growing your own business. Like, talk to me about how you're overcoming these challenges and how you're coping with all of that.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because, you know, you don't even know what we're doing in Victoria and you're only a state away. So like Australia's in a weird spot. We kind of from state to state don't really know what everybody's regulations are. So for us, we're trapped within a 5K radius of our house. We've got, I think at the moment we've got 1 hour of exercise a day. And then I think we've got a curfew here at about till 8 p.m. So like, you can imagine that we are pretty much spending 95% of our time at home. So for me, it's good. I mean, for me personally, I've been able to spend time with my wife, a lot more time with my family, my dog, that I haven't had the chance to because, you know, we've had to go to work and stuff. So I've really been super appreciative of that. But yeah, it definitely takes a toll on you. I mean, I feel like Groundhog Day a lot of the time. I wake up, you know, I cook, I come and do my work. I sit in the lounge room at the moment. You know, I watch a bit of telly, I go to bed, I wake up and do it all again. Like it's a pretty repetitive situation. And as much as I'm doing really well with it, I can imagine there's a lot of people out there that are doing bad. I mean, for me, I've got a roof over my head and I can, you know, come and do this job. And we're lucky that we're in an industry that can work through a pandemic because I know that there's a lot of people out there that have lost jobs that won't be able to. I was talking to a client that was supposed to come on with me earlier in the year who was in the wedding industry, and like the wedding industry and events has just been crippled. So I was talking to her and she's lovely and she's just like, you know, we'll work together when things ease up. But she's like, for the moment, I don't know what to do. Like I only really know wedding event planning. I don't really have any other skill set. So I sort of just have to sit and wait. And I'm like, God, there'd be, you know, think about like air stewardesses and air stewards. Like, what are they going to do until international travel and, you know, flights are back on track and stuff. It's nuts. So as much as I think it's difficult for us and, you know, people are kind of thinking Victoria's pretty doom and gloom, like we've got it pretty good and I personally have it pretty well. So I have to be pretty appreciative for that.
Yeah. I think it's a really good mindset to have because, like you can get in the habit of just being like living under a rock kind of thing, right? Like wake up, just do your thing and then kind of forget why you're doing it in the first place. I think I was a couple of weeks ago, I was like kind of caught in that trap, you know, just waking up every day, just building a business, just working, but not really appreciating what you're doing or why you're doing it kind of thing. So I think mental health and, you know, all of that stuff is so like super important, especially if you're building a business, especially, you know, in this pandemic and stuff like that. So
100%.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think you mentioned something like, it kind of just like, I had a random thought, but have you ever been in a situation where like you're talking to like potential clients, like, you know, people coming on board, but you know for a fact that the business model isn't up to scratch, or there are some flaws that just, there's something missing that, you know, is not going to enable them to really succeed in the online space or something like that. Like, how do you kind of go about that? Like when you know, look, I can't help you because of this is missing, but I know you need help. It's just, you know, I don't know. Talk to me about that because it's something that I kind of struggle with because I love helping people, but I know there is a limitation that we're in the space of, we can help as many people as we can, but we can't help everybody. And that's just the simple thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've probably got two answers to this because there's actually two elements to it. So you're talking about the really like modest, you like to help people, and I'm the same, I really do. But there's also another element to it, and especially seeing as we're new businesses, it is really hard to turn down work because at the end of the day, you know, I kind of want to earn a living. So I'll give you a really quick story. And you might have seen this on LinkedIn. I did a post recently about saying no to my first ever client, like just straight up saying to them, no, like, oh, I don't want to take you on. So really lovely lady. I'm not going to go into too much about her background or her industry. I think that'd be unfair, but she was really lovely. We had a nice conversation about, you know, what was going on. And we were pretty much at the point of like, are you ready to sign on? I'm pretty keen. And just a couple of things that she said to me were pretty just apparent that it wasn't going to work out, the really big red flags. And that's the difficulty in this industry, because you see red flags and sometimes you ignore them, but these were just too big for me. The expectation was unreasonable. One of the things that got to me was that she wanted weekly catch-ups, which I'm not really that upset about, but for the retainer and the value that she was actually going to bring to my business, I thought she's eating up a lot of my time.
Sure.
I don't think I need to manage it that way. And then even when I tried to negotiate with her and say, maybe fortnightly and then we could ease off on that, she's like, no, weekly. I want to talk to you every Monday for at least an hour. And I was just kind of like,
at least an hour.
Like, okay. There's necessity for communication, but like, not to the point of you're dictating when we don't talk. So I don't know. There was a few different things that went on. So I eventually told her, hey, I don't think this is a good thing for you. Oh, well, sorry, I don't think this is a good fit for us. And she was actually really lovely. And I said, here's a few agencies that I think could work for you. They're referrals of good agencies that I think do well. Good luck, all the best. And she was like, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Like, you went out of your way to give me the contact details of other agencies. And she goes, I hope that we work together in the future. So it was all really amicable. So that's one example. That's one example of somebody that, just isn't going to work for your business. On the flip side, for you, what you're asking is, how do you deal with people who genuinely need your help? Like they really do. Yet they're just not going to work. Like you look at their campaign and you go, God, I don't think I can actually get your return. And there's a few of them. I work with a lot of Shopify websites, and I work with a few like mum and pop kind of shops. And the issue with that is that like you get some industries that are just saturated. And I had a woman contact me the other day talking about soy candles. And I was like, there are so many soy candle online stores. There are so many markets. It is so oversaturated. And she just didn't have the funds. Like she couldn't afford me. She just really wasn't in the right spot, but she was like such a lovely human being and she just really needed some help. And I was like, I want to help her. And in the end, I actually suggested like just doing a once-off implementation for her just to try and help her out and give her a bit of a leg up. I gave her a few pointers, said, here's some stuff you can go research for some SEO, just get your website up to scratch. But I don't know, man, I'm the exact same as you. It was really hard to say, I'm sorry, but I don't think that you're the right fit for an agency at this point in time. You're probably 6 to 12 months too early in your I guess your stature. But I don't know, man, like how do you deal with it? How have you felt?
Yeah. Like you, I think there's a couple of points to consider. And I think one, you have to think about it. Like, yes, you want to help people, you have the best intentions, but at the end of the day, you're still a business owner. And that's kind of the struggle that you need to kind of adopt to when you're building a business, coming away from like I'm a guy who wants to help people, and it's like, well, I'm also a person who runs a business that needs to employ other people. So I have an obligation to, bring home the bacon for these people to, live off. So the second consideration is that like sometimes businesses come to you for help. They're more in desperation mode rather than like growth mode. And, we're not in the business of, helping people. Like, yes, we can grow businesses and help people, survive kind of thing. But if a business is fundamentally failing because of the industry and all these other circumstances, it's not our obligation. Sorry if you can hear my niece in the background, but
all right. That's nice. I have to get used to it anyway.
Working from home situation. But like we can't help everybody if there's so many things that are out of our control. We can do things like position the campaign or do this and, just move as many levers as we can, but sometimes it's just out of our control. And we need to understand that, even if we take on this campaign, it's not going to be beneficial for the client because they're giving us a retainer, they're spending all this money, and we know in the back of our minds it's not going to work. But also, from our perspective from the business, it's a time suck. We're throwing all this time into a campaign that we know won't work. And obviously, when campaigns don't work, you need to keep putting hours in and hours in to make that campaign work somehow. So, it's a really hard one. I think similar to your situation, like if I believe a campaign won't work, I'll try and refer them to someone who potentially might be able to help them, or I'll just give them recommendations and just be upfront because, the last thing we want to do as an agency is take on a client that one can't afford us, and is basically in desperation mode, giving like their life savings to us, and then the campaign not work out, because that is such a difficult situation to be in. Especially,
it's hard to work through. You, like, the conversations are always negative. There's never a positive. Even if you have a decent month, but still doesn't bring them a return, you're still sitting there going, you're on the back foot the whole entire time, and it sucks. I mean, I'm a massive advocate for helping anybody and everybody that you can, but when it gets down to it, there are just some campaigns that you just can't do anything about. And I think as I've gotten into this a little bit more, I'm starting to realize that, and I'm at ease letting go of campaigns that originally I would have been like, no, let's just give this a try. Let's just go for it. I think I'm now getting to a point where I'm like, no, I just don't think that's right. And here's the other thing. The other thing is that, like, a lot of the stuff that these people need, especially early days, potential clients, can be found online now. Like, there really is so much information. There is so much content out there that can help you get a good starting point. And I mean, it may not necessarily skyrocket your business. You might just get a few more sales trickling in, but just the concept of having a few of those sales might give you more trust in the delivery and trust in your business, that you might be able to probably, I guess, commit to an agency a little bit better, and you might be able to put some budget aside for it. I mean, one of my favorite things about clients is that they kind of act as if an agency is like this, I don't know, like when they think of an agency, they think of like this secret chamber with like metal doors, like we are really like an agency.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, sometimes you just have to realize that we're just people as well. Like, we're just trying our best to help you out. So I think there's this kind of, initially there's kind of this give and take kind of, I'm a little bit worried about these guys. But at the end of the day, we're worried too taking on a client. We want to make sure that we're offering the best value, making sure the campaign actually works for them. Because as you said, then you get to the point 3 months down the track, hey, we've done nothing and you've spent this amount of money. What do you want to do? It's normally not a very nice conversation. I mean, let me ask you this. How do you deal with something that I've found in this industry, which is like anxiety prevention, like kind of like anxiety mitigation? Because, there are clients that make you super anxious. There are moments in this job that make you anxious. How do you go about preventing that at the moment?
Yeah, that's such a good topic to bring up, because transitioning from like an employee to then like a business builder kind of thing, one where you're like obligated to get results for your clients, but also obligated to build a business and pay your staff, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of like pressure on your back, right? You need to perform on the client side, but also internally as well. And when you're running campaigns for people and businesses that actually need the return, that, literally rely on that, on the results you produce month on month, it's definitely something that you keep in the back of your mind, even, when you're clocking off and stuff like that. To answer your question, how I deal with it, I think it's kind of like a perspective thing, and understanding that, look, as long as we're doing everything we can to get this client results, and we feel like we're doing a better job than, what they were doing beforehand, it's just a bit of a kind of like an internal reality check that, like, look, that's okay. As long as we're doing what we can do within our control, the results are kind of a byproduct of that. But if we're doing everything we physically can and the results aren't there, we just need to keep working on it until we get those results, and not really like pinning yourself and saying, oh, it's all my fault. Oh, I'm so like, yes, it's a shit feeling to have if you don't get results for your clients. But as long as you're doing everything you can, as long as your team is doing everything you can, and you understand that, we're doing everything like for the benefit of the client, that's fine. Like, try not to really hold yourself 100% accountable for like
for everything. It's not always all your fault. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I tend to be the same. I think if there's anybody out there that listens to this and is actually genuinely interested in starting an agency, like, come in with the expectation that you are going to have a lot of highs and you're going to have a lot of lows. It happens. I have days where, I'm sitting there thinking I'm the king of the world, and the next minute I'm the scum on the bottom of the shoe just because I've made, a couple of mistakes, and it's just how life happens. I mean, I'll give you a really good example. I've just brought on a whiskey distillery over here in Mornington in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And we got their campaign up and running, and we were moving along. And over the weekend that we got started, the week leading up to the first weekend of their campaign, there had been heaps of traffic, but not a lot of conversions. And I was really worried about this client because, I really like them. They're nice people. They're pretty fresh into the marketing game. I'm sitting there looking at the data and I'm going, what's happening? Like, I'm looking at my dashboard, like our marketing dashboard, and I'm just not seeing any ROAS. I'm not seeing any transactions coming through. And I'm panicking all weekend. And, this thing is a full-time job. Unfortunately, I work on a Saturday and a Sunday as well, just to make sure I'm on top of everything. And I get to Monday and I'm talking to my head of paid and I'm like, mate, what's going on? Like, we're really struggling. And he's like, yeah, this is odd because there should be sales here. So we did a bit of digging, and something that had been left in the back of their GA hadn't been amended. So the reporting wasn't actually pulling the way that it should have been. So I had to look at their data and dug a bit deeper, and I'm like, oh man, these guys have had 8 transactions over the weekend. They're fine. They're doing really, really well. So I got myself really worked up, anxious, and really over the top. And little did I know that there was a small conversion tracking issue that we amended, and now they're on track again and looking fine. So these little things that shouldn't really be that big an issue, they worry you and they get you anxious because they're your clients. They're, it's your campaign, it's your agency.
Yeah.
It's full on.
It's definitely an internal struggle, especially. I think it's probably, especially specific for a business owner, like a founder or something, where you kind of need to trust the process in a sense. Obviously, yes, that was a bit of an issue. The tracking should have been implemented better, but when you're looking at campaigns day to day and you're talking to your head of pay, why aren't we getting results? Why aren't we getting results? It's well, one, we're doing everything we can. We've done all the processes and everything's set up. Let's just trust the process to see results. Don't look at it day by day. But as the founder, as the person building the business, you're you can't help yourself. You look at it day to day. You might not get results for first 3 or 4 days. You're oh my God, scratching your head, pulling it out. What is going on? And then by the end of the week, you've gotten 10 conversions and everything's all sweet. Your conversion rates are 10%. It's through the roof, smashing industry average. You're oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we're all good. At the end of the day, I've actually smashed out a really good campaign. Yeah, that's just how it is sometimes. But it's just interesting to pick your brain about that because, that's obviously something that's pretty big from agency sake. Yeah,
for sure. I think we'll probably wrap it up soon. I think just before we wrap it up, I'd love to know because recently I've been scrolling through Facebook and I've seen I don't know if it's you as well, but I've been seeing the same businesses over and over again, e-com wise. And it seems to me that a lot of businesses are building, maybe it's because the drop shipping industry is booming these days. I don't know, but a lot of businesses are kind of doing the same thing where it's selling tights, selling candles, like you mentioned, and it's so saturated. So I don't know if you have any tips e-com wise, how can people kind of cut through the noise and build businesses in that e-commerce space? Because I know a lot of people that are listening would kind of love that, industry, how to build this amazing e-com business.
Yeah, it's a really hard question because if I knew the answer, I'd probably do a bunch of them myself.
Sure.
But no, I know where you're coming from. I mean, probably the industry that I found in the last 12 months that I just see constantly over and over again has been vaporizers. I don't know why, but vaping is apparently the cool new thing. And everybody drop ships. They're all the same stuff from China and everybody gets the most identical products. I don't really love drop shipping. Don't drop ship. Go for a product that you don't need to drop ship. At the end of the day, when you're drop shipping, you're going to Oberlo or you're going to Alibaba or whatever. So you're getting it from the same pool of products that everybody else in the world can get. So firstly, I wouldn't say drop ship. I'd say a few things. Find yourself a niche that you like. So if you don't like your business, don't just start a business for the sake of it, because honestly, you won't dedicate enough time to it. I used to run a drumstick business, but that's because I was a drummer and because I saw a need for, good quality Australian owned, but, American hickory drumsticks. And I loved it. And I did it for 4 years and, it took so much of my time, but I loved every minute of it. So something that you can get behind and something you can dedicate time to is super important. But the word that I said there before, niche, is really important because when you go into, I guess, soy candles, again, so much competition, all of a sudden you have to do everything 10 times harder to get to a point where you're one of the main players or the main competitors. So find yourself a niche, but when you find yourself a niche, just because you have a niche product, a really interesting one, I just brought on a client from in Queensland who sells like bird feed, like premium bird feed. That's a weird niche. Not many people are doing that. He's smashing it. He's doing incredibly well. And the reason that he does it is because he uses like premium products. He sources all of his produce and everything that goes into the feed locally in Australia. Like he's done it really cleverly. That's what you need to do. You need to find your point of difference, something that differentiates you from your competitors and something that you can really utilize. Because when we go online now, like correct me if I'm wrong, when you bought something recently, most websites look pretty similar. Like they're either going to be built on the same template and, you know, more than likely the same CMS. Let's use Shopify as an example because that's pretty popular. So when I go to a website, I look for a few things. I look at what's their USP, their unique sales proposition, what makes them different, and what's their hook. So those are the few really little things that I look at, and you can tell the difference when you go to somebody's website and they've got like beautiful icons saying free delivery, Australian source product, you know, warranty, buyer's guarantee, all of this kind of stuff. I encourage everybody to go look at appliances online. They are incredible at this. They do such great social proof. They have really good USPs and they make it really well known to you immediately. This is the kind of experience you're going to get from purchasing from us. So when you are building a website, think about the user, because we get so wrapped up in our product and our offering and what we're doing, but I'm not buying my product. I have customers that are doing it. So ask them, talk to people, get their feedback. That's why we do conversion rate optimization. That's why we do heat mapping and user testing. Get people's opinions first, make sure that it's got that user-friendly feel with some differentiation, and you should land on a pretty good wicket.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point you brought up, like taking the perspective of the customer, because I used to work like at a startup incubator for 2 years, and the biggest thing that I learned, because there was a bunch of basically entrepreneurs trying to build businesses, like I would say 70-80% of these people were building stuff that they wanted. Like I get it, you find a problem, but like it's what you want, it's not what the customer wants. So I see it all the time, like people building like fitness brands, like, you know, fitness companies, tights, you know, clothes, gym stuff. It's like, one, are you building this because you genuinely want to, or is it because you saw Gymshark doing this and, you know, you think it's like, you know, you're going to be a $1 billion company? And two,
exactly,
like, what is your point of difference? Like, what does the customer actually want versus what you want? Yeah, you want this cool like clothing brand for yourself, but what problem are you really solving? I think,
but that's it exactly. The point of difference there is, okay, so a really, really good one is men's underwear. Yeah, so men's underwear had been the same for years and years and years, and everybody was buying Bonds or Calvin Klein or whatever. And then I've obviously just invested in Step One, who is like a massive company who are doing a really good marketing spend, and their whole entire point of difference is underwear are tiresome, they're polyester, they're cotton, they're crap, they're not breathable. They've made bamboo, you know, whatever underpants, which at the end of the day is it's just sales spin, but it's clever. They're talking about, well, bamboo's more breathable. They have this elastic pouch, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to hint to you that there is a better version of underpants out there that you can buy, and we have it, and here are our packs, and give them a go. And it's such a simple concept. It's such a simple little thing to change up, but it's so effective. And when you can do that on a massive scale, and then you can obviously drive your marketing, you get a lot of people to your website, you'll smash it.
And I think there's a very important thing about that. It's like, you need to actually be different and not just say that you're different. Like, you know, just because you put in the headline, oh, we're different, but you sell the exact same materials, like drop shipping, for example, like you sell the same candle from the same supplier, but you say, oh, you know, we're different, we're amazing, we have better quality than X, Y, and Z. It's like people figure that out. People know that you're not actually that different. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
people
care.
can see through it now. Yeah. We are the savviest that we've ever been technically or technologically, and we're only improving from there. Think about the fact that everybody is at home now, probably purchasing online. So everybody is looking at thousands of websites. Think about the fact that people are now smart enough that when they're in a store, they have a small computer in their hand in the shape of a mobile that they can look at reviews from people from your product. Like, we are super savvy, and the people that don't treat customers that way get burnt on the other end. Because if you don't treat them with the respect that they deserve, which is they're an intelligent, informed person trying to buy the best scenario for them, they're gonna, they're gonna be let down. And it's so funny that we get to this point, because this kind of rounds this whole conversation up. We started with the whole conversation about agencies and this exact thing, which is don't overpromise and underdeliver. Make sure that you have a differentiation and you have a niche. It's the exact same when you're in e-commerce and when you're selling a product. Make sure that when you promote yourself and when you do all of these things online, you do it in a really transparent, organic way so that people want to invest in you. It's the exact same as an agency, man. And I think that's kind of how we both want to work.
Yeah. I think the one of the best lines, I don't know who I heard it from, was like, the best type of marketing is just to be authentic, just to be real, be honest, and, people will love that about you, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's a really great way to wrap it up. I think we've definitely spent, quite a lot of time speaking. So I'll let you go. Maybe if you want to tell people where they can find you, if they need some CRO or some sort of work in e-com.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Dave Hyman. I'm more than happy to have a chat. Otherwise, you can come to www.reformdigital.com.au and while you're at it, give the guys at JRNY Digital some love as well. They're really, really clever guys. Make sure you help them out.
Thanks for the shout out, man. Awesome.
No worries, man.
Thanks for your time, Dave.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers, Jace. Bye.